And broadcasting and podcasting 438 miles between each other. It's another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. Hello, everybody. George Koff and Desmond McLaughlin with you on your left and your right side of your screen if you're seeing this on YouTube or just in your headphones, left and right ear headphones on Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are available. Glad to have you with us as we break down week 3, look back to week 2, look at week 3 of the college football season on this 41st total episode of the podcast. And I'd like to welcome in Desmond this time for the first time today in the episode. Desmond, how are you doing on this Wednesday afternoon?
We just got through that main tropical storm. Seeing a little flooding lately. Hopefully everything's good up there. But I'm great. Ready to get into this episode, man.
Yeah, College Station did get some rain. We're not flooding rains, but we did get some nice downpour, which was definitely needed. We were looking a little brown on our grasses, if you will. But brown on our grasses is not going to be something we're going to be looking at this week, as it is officially SEC opening game week. It is. I've been waiting to say that for the last 3 weeks. You know I've been waiting to say that. And boy, what that means, Aggie football game week. Aggies take on Vanderbilt, and we're going to get right into it here as it's their season opener. First time that the Aggies will have opened with an SEC game since they joined the conference, with their first game being Florida. So this is a big deal for the Aggies. We had a depth chart that was released on Monday. Honestly, it really didn't answer any more questions. We had a few opt-outs but since we last met with each other here, Desmond. Most notably, Anthony Hines, linebacker, is opting out due to corona or fears of corona, as well as social justice. And I totally respect it, not saying anything bad about it, just letting you guys know what's happening there. As far as the depth chart, it really showed receiver. The receiver core is young. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that there's a lot of unknowns. You don't know who's going to perform. Demond Demas is our big star. He's the 5-star that couldn't play high school football last year because the UIL didn't allow him the transfer from one high school to another. So he'll get his first reps, in-game reps since 2018 rather. So it will be a big deal to see how he performs. But other than that, there's really not much leadership on that receiving core with all these guys that have either gone to the draft or were opt-outs. For me, that's really the only concern I have. Of course, it's also Vanderbilt's side. Their depth chart was also very questions, not much questions answered there. They were very withholding a lot of information. So we'll see what happens. But Desmond, with that receiving core, what does that mean for this A&M offense?
Calamon is definitely going to step up. As you said about 2 weeks ago, there are a lot of teams that have newer freshman quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, and it's nice to have, someone who started a while, a senior now. So he has that leadership. He has the experience. So maybe he'll implant the new receivers into the system. And I also wanted to make a note there. You're talking about Hines, how he's out for coronavirus fears. Well, Vanderbilt has already lost 6 players for the opener. I think it was like 1 who's in quarantine, 3 injuries, and then another one broke some protocol there. But they've already lost 6 players.
Yeah,
just for the season opener. That's insane.
I was going to mention when I had wrote my notes, it was 4. So of course, I said 4 and counting. So yes, that you make a very good point. That could cause some issues for Coach Mason or Coach Derek Mason of the Commodores and how he wants to go about his team. You don't have everyone available. So how do you start to substitute everything? One thing that Jimbo Fisher, I want to mention before we get to our predictions, is Jimbo Fisher mentioned that this year, because there's no red shirt, because this is basically a extra year of eligibility. It doesn't count towards your eligibility whether you're a freshman or a senior. You get basically a mulligan, if you will. What he mentioned is that means that everybody has the ability to play. There's no need to redshirt, no need to focus on redshirting. There's no need to focus on how many, reps and this and that. Everybody has the ability to play. And what he was saying from that standpoint is that it allows the coaching staff to see where everybody is, who's on this page, who's on that page, but also it allows them to get some in-game reps in the ability that, let's say, they may not play as a starter the whole season, but come next year, they already have that in-game experience to where they're leaders and ready to go for a full 2021 season. So I think, assuming we do get this stuff under control by next fall, which if we don't, then I don't know what happened to our world. But seriously, if that's not the case, that's a whole nother story. So I think that's going to play a factor. Do you see anything about that, Desmond? How you may see more freshmen, and we may have already seen it with the college football already, but what does this mean for roster size and how that's going to play with reps?
Well, I definitely agree. I think more experience is better. And I think that if you put the younger guys in more, I think this is a good kind of test run for next year for teams. As you said, they're able to see who can play with the system better. And I think next year is gonna be really competitive, because they'll have been able to try out all the new people. They'll get new recruits. And so we'll start to see next year. But I'm really ready to see A&M play. I think Vanderbilt is it's a great game for them to start off with. It's not Alabama or LSU. I'm not knocking them down or anything, but it's not one of the stronger SEC teams. So it really gives them a chance to start off strong.
And that's exactly what I was going to go into. You get this ability to get 4 quarters under your belt before you have to take on the University of Alabama. In case you were wondering, Desmond, Alabama's game number 2 for the Aggies. And it starts a pretty tough stretch for the Aggies. Bama, Florida, and Mississippi State before their first bye. So that's a tough stretch, with 2 of those being road games. But I think A&M, you're right. Vanderbilt, good opponent to start off with, kind of get things under control. I think they do. They're 31-point favorites. I don't think it's going to be that much. I've got the Aggies winning 45-17. They'll still win. I just don't think it's going to be a 30-point game.
31, wow. Yeah, I had them winning by 17, 27-10. I didn't realize how big the spread was. I might have gone a little higher, but that's in 31. That's a lot, especially for SEC versus SEC team.
Yeah, we're seeing it with Bama, Missouri. Excuse me. Bama and Missouri is also 27.5. Bama is a favorite. So I think part of it is also you don't know what these teams are going to look like. COVID's changed rosters. So I honestly do not like the Vegas lines for the SEC games this week because who knows what's going to happen. First off, it's the SEC. Secondly, you don't have any sort of baseline to know where to even go with that. And Aggies, I believe we were under 500 against the spread last year. I could be wrong. We did not do a very good job against the spread, partly because we did well in the first half of the season, covering against Clemson and some of those smaller teams you're supposed to beat. But then once it got towards the end of the season, kind of just went all over the place. So yeah, I think it'll be a good one. I think it'll be exciting to be back in Kyle Field. I will announce I am going to be in Kyle Field for that game. Fans are being back allowed, 25% capacity, so it will be very exciting. I'll make sure to report on what it is like, what's the atmosphere from being in a stadium that's normally 102,000 to now being basically 20,000. It's going to be real interesting. But I do, it's a sense of normalcy in our new normal world that I'm glad to be able to say Aggie football's on Saturday and I'll be there for the game. So shout out to that. And you can see that on the SEC Network alternate if you're not in College Station or you want to watch it on TV at 6:30 kick. All right, let's focus on the other side. Lubbock hosts number 8 Texas and Texas Tech. Desmond, talk about a tough Big 12 opener. We went from A&M having an easy SEC opener to a tough Big 12 opener for the Red Raiders. What does Alan Bowman have to do to keep his team in it?
Overtime. After that first game against HBU, it's getting me nervous. Texas is not a bad team. And I just want to point out, as I'm going to mention every single week, I said Alan Bowman would be the Big 12 passer. As of now, he is still leading Big 12 in passing with Big Daddy Sam right behind him. This is gonna be a matchup of quarterbacks this game, and as of now, Sam has the edge. He has the better receivers. He has the better, especially the better running backs behind him to get that offense going. It's not looking good for us right now. That the secondary is going to scare me on our defense. I mean, we allowed 300 plus yards against HBU. Imagine what Sam's going to do to us, man.
Yeah, I'll mention that again. You guys allowed the most passing yards in school history to an FCS opponent, not just to any to FBS, FCS, to any opponent, and it was to Houston Baptist. 567 passing yards was what Zap had last time out against the Red Raiders. What optimism do you have for this score or for your prediction for the game being close? In other words, what can the Texas Tech nation and Texas Tech do in order for this game to still be competitive going into the fourth quarter?
It's going to have to be the offense. We're going to have to be hitting on all cylinders. Alabama's got to play different, have a different mentality. He's not TJ Vasher more. I feel like even last week he didn't hit him as much as we used to. We've talked about TJ Vasher. I think if he goes on to a different team and he gets more catches, he's a top 15, top 10 receiver in college football. I honestly think that.
So who you got in this game?
I think Texas could win this game 38-14. But, of course, Texas Tech wins. I won't be disappointed. I'll be ecstatic. If they win, I think we have a good chance of 1 or 2 in the Big 12 if they beat Texas.
Wow, that's optimism right there.
I mean, especially being that Iowa State, one of the teams that's usually above us, already has a loss under their belt.
Absolutely. I was going to say, because Iowa State's been underwhelming, rather. Yeah, you open the door for maybe a little bit more success than we thought coming into the season. This is the Chancellor Spurs rivalry game. I don't know if you were aware of that, Desmond. It is a trophy rivalry game. I've got the Longhorns. I don't like saying that because, again, both of us don't like the Longhorns. But I think they are the better team. Sam Ehlinger is a Heisman contender. Whether or not I want to admit it, he is. And I have him winning 41-20. So I think it will be close. It is a 18-point spread for the Longhorns in their 2:30 kickoff on Fox. So national TV, Lubbock gets to be the stage for that game. All right, we're going to move forward to taking a look back at what we saw on Saturday last week. And honestly, it was kind of a lackluster weekend for it being a kind of a bigger college football, more games being played and such. It kind of felt just meh. Miami got a expected win over Louisville. They kind of started looking like the Miami teams of.
Would you say expected?
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. They got an expected win after the first quarter. It was pretty obvious that Miami was the better team in that game.
And I told you about Derek King, man.
Oh, we talked about it. We both were agreeing that Miami was a good team. And you know what? Kirk Herbstreit hit on I don't know if it was Kirk or if it was Chris Fowler who said, this Miami team finally has things where they need it. A good quarterback, good receivers, a good run game, a decent defensive line, a good secondary, and a strong offensive line. They're starting to look like the Miami teams from way back when Jimmy Johnson was there and the U and when that was all the craze with the Rock and I'm trying to think who else was I'm forgetting. I guess Jimmy Graham to a certain degree. He was later, but
bringing out the turnover chain.
yeah. I don't know if you saw that, Desmond. The turnover chain is ginormous this year.
Hey.
It's huge. But either way, Miami, I guess it was after the first quarter, it just kind of felt like there was really no more action there. Notre Dame, Clemson, UCF, Cincinnati, Boston College, all won big. UCF was probably the biggest surprise. We both thought that it was going to be somewhat of a win for UCF. We didn't think it was going to be that big. I mean, 49-21, absolutely run Georgia Tech out of Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta. Like, geez, it was, UCF might be for real. And I know we say that every year, but this Dylan Gabriel and this UCF offense has some potential. Were you going to say something, Desmond? You looked like you
No,
were.
no, no.
Okay. Well, also, okay, I need to mention this right now. I really doubted that SMU North Texas game for two reasons. One, it was an offensive shootout. Desmond, 100 combined points in that game. And what did I say? I'm going back to my notes from last week. I said it was going to be a 31-20 game. And my exact words were, this won't be an offensive explosion. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mustangs, and I'm sorry, Mean Green fans. I did not think it was going to be that bad, but 165-35, wow. Oklahoma State barely survived. Again, that trend of the Big 12 teams barely surviving.
Big 12 teams.
We know
Besides Texas and OU.
Yeah, and we saw that, Baylor Houston was postponed. We both had Baylor, but gosh, you can't imagine that Baylor was probably going to have a tough test with Houston, and we'll get to Houston in a second. Marshall, let's go.
Hey, I told you about a story from TikTok. It was a sign. I knew it was a sign.
It was. They upset App State at home. Louisiana Tech, I don't know if you saw that, Desmond, but Louisiana Tech Southern Miss, that last second, right at the end of the game, catch to win the game, and they had to go to review because it was called incomplete on the field on third or fourth goal, I think, and it was called a touchdown after a very long review. But incredible comeback there from the Bulldogs. And then Louisiana stayed ranked, but it took an overtime win. So lots of somewhat, I say lackluster, but there was also some exciting games that maybe weren't going to be as exciting.
Right.
And
I think a lot when SEC teams start playing, Big 12 teams start playing each other, I think it will start picking up a little bit.
Right, and we start that this week. And this week, I think from this week onwards is going to be more of just a full-on, I don't know what you would call it, a full-on just chuck wagon of excitedness. That's a good word there. Let's hit on Houston for just a second. As we were about to start our podcast recording, Houston and North Texas were supposed to play this week in Houston, and it has been postponed due to COVID. Desmond, this is Houston's fifth chance at playing. They were supposed to play Rice. That was postponed by Rice. They were supposed to play Washington State, and of course with the Pac-12, that was canceled. They were supposed to play Memphis. That was postponed due to Memphis's outbreak. They were supposed to play Baylor, and then 24 hours before the Baylor game, they got postponed because Baylor didn't have enough players. And then North Texas saying that because of contact tracing and because of a case of COVID, they have to postpone. What is the mindset for this Houston Cougars team? It's almost as if God is saying, Houston Cougars, do not play in 2020. This is not good for you. Like, it's almost a sign. 5 straight times that this team has tried to play, with 3 of those in the last week. They look forward to Tulane. Tulane on October 8th will be their first game of the season. While some teams have, at that point, will have played 4 or 5 games. What is this? If you're the coach, if you're Dana Holgerson, what is your mindset? What do you tell your players?
I mean, personally, if I was a coach, I would be heated. Think about it. They put all this practice in. They've obviously been studying film the whole week, getting ready. And I heard that just some sources that they actually were unloading the truck at Baylor, already getting ready, and they came out and said that they could not play.
That's ridiculous.
You know how mad I would be if I heard that?
Yeah, you drive 3 hours to Waco. You get out of the bus, and you're like, oh, start to unload, and then you get a guy that goes.
I understand with coronavirus and everything, everyone's being, extra cautious. But I think that if you don't give a heads up for a certain amount of time, it should be considered a forfeit.
And you make a good point, but also keep in mind, Baylor Houston is probably the biggest exception of this because, first off, that game was scheduled a week before it was going to be played. Secondly, there was already concerns when it was scheduled that Baylor was not going to have enough players because there was 2 people in contact tracing. The third thing is if you're going to do that, Desmond, if you're going to give a forfeit, then you're going to have all these other teams, especially Houston, who's going to say, where's our forfeit? Where's our 4-0 record to start the season?
Right.
So,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. A specific amount of time, because if you let them know like a week before, it gives them time to like, okay, but the day of, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's just,
right.
That's
No, the night before, that's unacceptable.
exactly.
And
But I think if I was the coach, I'd be ready to play anybody at this point. They're probably so eager just to get a football game under the belt. I know I was going to watch the game. I was eager for it.
Oh, it's going to be a good game. It was probably going to be the best game of the weekend. Baylor, Houston. Go look at the rest of the what the conference, or not even the conference, what the rest of the games were. Tulsa, Oklahoma State, UCF, Georgia Tech. They were kind of boring. Houston, Baylor. You get some Texas pizzazz, and you get a non-conference matchup that hasn't been played since 1995. Of course, you're going to be excited for it. And yet,
man, I think I might have to go that sign thing, George. I might be a sign if the game gets too late, ends up getting canceled. Maybe it's time to put a season on the wraps.
I would agree. We'll keep you posted, and we'll. I did see that there were preliminary talks with Houston trying to see if they can reschedule a game for next week. So that would be the week of the 2nd and 3rd. So there is talks that maybe that would happen, and then they'd move that Tulane game to a Saturday. So then there's extra rest and time. That is not confirmed, and that is just talks at this point. So we'll see what happens. And I would expect that to expand here in the next few days, just because if you're Houston, you want to play. You want to play.
Right.
So, okay, we'll move forward here. We don't want to take too much time, but got some big games, three games. Finally got some top 25 matchups this early into the season. Kentucky-Auburn is a top 25 matchup that's going to be worth watching. Probably the best game of the SEC slate this week. Army-Cincinnati, group of 5 have potential for some interesting, results. And then Louisville-Pittsburgh. Can we talk about how Pittsburgh could go 3-0?
They could.
First time since 2014 that could happen. And they've kind of just been a team that kind of just slept on and been cruising these last few weeks. No COVID talks, nothing. They've kind of just been flying under the radar, saying, "Yep, we're going to play this week. We're fine. I believe they're I don't even know who their coach is still. Has said that they've done a really good job of maintaining, protocol, and so that they can play, because their players do want to play and the coaches do want to coach. So shout out to the Pittsburgh Panthers football team for doing everything they can to prevent and to have the ability to be able to go 3-0 this early in the season. And then I guess NC State, Virginia Tech could be interesting. Virginia Tech hasn't played a game yet, and we are basically when the start of the SEC. They were supposed to play 2 weeks ago, and they got postponed. So we'll see how that plays an impact and of course, NC State coming off a big win last week against Wake Forest. Desmond, the scary good game, you getting the spread correct.
I did see that.
So should be interesting for those two teams. All right, we're gonna do our week review of pro sports. If you've been focused on college, you may not be paying attention to the fact that we have playoffs in 2 sports, with playoffs in a 3rd sport coming up. Stanley Cup final between the Dallas Stars and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Desmond, I know you're not a huge hockey fan, but the Dallas Stars, if they win the Stanley Cup, 2020 might just be saved in some way. They've fought through the entire Edmonton bubble, and they're tied up at 1-1. Man, something about it just is going to be exciting if they do win. Lakers Nuggets, great game last night. Nuggets getting a win there to force at least a 5th game in that series. Celtics Heat play tonight, 2-1. Heat lead the series. The Boston Celtics are going to want to win this game 4 so they can force a game 6, because I don't know if Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler are going to let them win game 5 if they win tonight. In other words, if the Heat win tonight, I think they win the series. If the Celtics win tonight, there could be a better chance of the game 7. One thing, though, Desmond, I want to mention it's not even related to the bubble, is Adam Silver, commissioner, said that they are thinking not even playing until January. starting the 2020-2021 season in January. So the season would go January to April, and then or January even, I think, until May or June, and then you play the playoffs kind of like now, where the playoffs would almost shift to being August, September, October. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I guess it's pretty smart because you have to give the players a rest, and then basically it'll just be like half a season normally. Um, and then they'll play catch up next year, and hopefully they'll start back up like October of 2022. And so then they'll keep the regular schedule, but they definitely play catch up since NBA playoffs right now in September, unheard of. But we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting because you almost are so used to having the NBA finals in June and July,
Right,
like
in June.
in the summer, and it being
Then you have that one little awkward time of like kind of really no really sports, in
yeah,
July.
the 2 weeks around after July 4th, you have the ESPYs, and then it's like back to
Right,
baseball and
yeah.
all this. And so yeah, now it's been really interesting with the fact that we've had. I mean, at this point, we have 4 sports or 3 sports really. I mean,
Going on.
you can
Two
count
of them on the playoffs.
well, technically we have 4, Desmond: NHL, MLB, NBA, and the NFL. We have all 4 big
Yeah.
sports going on right now, which is crazy because normally it would just be the NFL and the MLB. So we'll have postseason picks for baseball. Don't worry, we're not forgetting about the MLB. I just want to leave this out there. Are the Padres for real? They've got Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. They've got a bunch of – they're being called Slam Diego for the amount of grand slams that they've hit this season. They could be giving the Dodgers a run for the money. The Dodgers clinched the NL West last night, so we'll see what the Padres can do in the postseason. But don't worry, we'll have those picks next week once all the seeds are finalized and we have matchups we can pick. So tune in for that. But this postseason should be unlike any other. We got 2 extra teams on both sides. 2 extra teams on both sides, and should be really exciting with the World Series being played at the new Rangers ballpark. So sorry, I feel bad because the Rangers are – I'm bad. I'm sad because the Rangers aren't even going to be in the playoffs. They were eliminated last night. So we get to watch 2 teams take over our stadium for a World Series title. Not sure how I feel about that, but nevertheless, I'm excited the stadium's going to be on display because it is a beautiful stadium, and can't wait to get there, and hopefully in 2021 for a game once things go back to normal. All right, Desmond. Everyone's been waiting for it. People probably skip through this part to the podcast just so they can hear us absolutely have some hot takes about what games we're going to pick. Let's just put this out there. I'm 3-0 on my upset. 3-0. Okay? With the last
I'm positive too.
Hey, you're 2-1. You're 2-1. South Alabama, and you were probably a field goal or a bad penalty away from possibly being 3-0 with South Alabama coming up short. But we'll see what this week's picks have in store. All right, we're going to start with the most intriguing matchup in the SEC, the Kentucky-Auburn game. It's in Auburn, 11 a.m. kickoff, so could be maybe an issue, but they are going to have a big student section, I believe it's going to be more students than actual fans at Auburn, so it should be an advantage for Auburn. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, should be a really good matchup. Bo Nix, second year, see what he could do. Terry Wilson's coming back from an injury for Kentucky. He tore his ACL and was out for the entire season last year in game 1. So see if he can stay healthy and have a good full year this year. I think it's going to be a dogfight in Jordan-Hare. I like the Auburn Tigers to avoid the upset bid, 38-35.
Agree, George. Bo Nix going to come out strong. I think the Auburn's their run defense is going to be great against Kentucky. So I was agreed. Auburn's going to put up 38, Kentucky 27. Glad to see the SEC back. Hopefully, I'm ready for the Big 12 to start playing each other, but Auburn's got this one.
Yeah, it should be a good one. You mentioned the run defense. Even though they've lost their star, I forgot his name, Derek Brown, even though he's in the NFL now, we'll see what that Auburn pass rush and run defense is going to look like. SEC Network, Auburn's a 10.5-point favorite. You can watch that one there. Texas State, Boston College. Texas State got their first win. Boston College, kind of shocked ACC fans with a big win over Duke. I thought we'd say that Duke team would be a little bit more mediocre. Now they don't look very good. A 26-6 win for the Eagles in that game. I think Boston College is going to win. I think just lack of talent for Texas State, but don't count out Texas State. They've got that receiver who's made 3 fantastic catches or 3 fantastic plays in the last 3 games. The punt return, the amazing catch in week 1, and then I don't know if you saw the catch against ULM last week, Desmond, but this guy is going to get in the NFL solely for his amazing catches. So I can't remember your name, but shout out to you. 34-21, Boston College wins.
It's funny you said famous just because his catches. We call him Odell Beckham III.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But I'm actually going to go the other way. I mean, Texas State has proved that they can hang with SMU. I think they're a little bit underlooked just with this matchup. I think they're going to win this one 24-21. It's going to be close, but I don't know. I have my hopes in Texas State this weekend.
Yeah, I was really close on who to choose, but I think Boston College just pure. It's their home opener. They haven't lost a home opener since 2003, I think is what I saw. So, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. But I do think Texas State has gotten Texas State has gotten those early struggles away, and they looked really good against ULM. They found all the pieces of the puzzle. So yeah, could be a good one on ESPN3. That could change based on all the postponements that we've gotten, and it's at 5 p.m. local time, or Texas local time, 6 p.m. local in Massachusetts. All right, Desmond. Army, Cincinnati. 22 ranked Army and 14th ranked Cincinnati. Group of 5 matchup that's probably underappreciated, but should get a lot of attention this week. The Black Knights, Army, they've shown that they run the ball, and run the ball. They're a triple option team. They're going to do that. Cincinnati, last week against Austin Peay in their opener, they showed that they kind of are more passing and running. They're very balanced. Desmond, I think you've seen a trend in the games that I've picked. The teams that I have put my back behind. They've all struggled against ranked teams in the past, and they've looked for that long-awaited win. Same situation, new team. I'm going with the Army Black Knights. It's my upset, and the only reason is since 1996, Army is 0-20 against AP Top 25. And I hope they will avoid their 5th straight road loss in a row. I've got the Army Black Knights upsetting the Cincinnati Bearcats 35-31.
George, you're reading my mind, man. I had Army winning as well. You know what? Because we talked about the last week how they're able to just kill the possession of time, just run it down people's throats, and they've only allowed 7 points in the first 2 games. Only 7.
That's 1 touchdown.
So their defense isn't bad. If they have, the grit to just run it down people's throats all the time, then they should win this game against Cincinnati. I don't even think it's really – I mean, the rankings are a little iffy. I think Army's a better team, but this was my upset pick just because if we're going based off what the rankings say, that's 22-14 team. So I have Army winning this one 17-10.
And Desmond – it's not just an upset off of the rankings. Cincinnati is the 14-point favorite in this game at home. So
I don't even understand how.
Yeah, I don't know.
They played against who? They played against Austin. What's that?
Austin Peay.
What's it?
Austin.
Yeah, unknown team, bro. Like they want to know off that.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. ESPN 2:30 kick. You can see that one. I believe it's of course, going to be a big game. So tune into that one and see who's right or if we're right or if Vegas is right. Louisville and Pittsburgh, 24th ranked, the third top 25 matchup of the week. Louisville and Pittsburgh, 24 versus 21. Pittsburgh, we talked about it earlier, have a chance to go 3-0 for the first time since 2014. They've beaten Austin Peay, as we mentioned, and Syracuse, both two teams that maybe aren't great, but they did look pretty good against Syracuse, and Syracuse held their own against North Carolina. So something to think about there. Louisville obviously took a loss to Miami last week with game day in Louisville. But I really think that this Cardinals team has a good offense and quarterback play, but Pittsburgh is on the type of season that's just going to shock everybody. Like you kind of see something like that where it's just you can't pick against them because if you do, they're going to win and they're just going to keep building this momentum. I've got the Pittsburgh Panthers by a score of 35 to 27. Excuse me.
All right, George, well, I'm about to flip the switch right here. I think it's been a close game.
I'm going to flip the switch. Hey. Go ahead, Desmond.
I think, you mentioned the teams Pittsburgh played, Syracuse, Austin Peay. Louisville didn't play well, but they also didn't play bad against Miami. And I'm telling you, this Miami team is good. I'm about to go Louisville 10-6. I think they're going to turn around this game. And I told you it's going to be a low score. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think a lot of field goals will be made. But I feel Louisville on this one.
Oh, my gosh. 10-6. Desmond, I haven't seen a score like that since the 3-2 Mississippi State-Auburn game in, 2010. Lord have mercy. Well, 11 a.m. on ACC Network from Pittsburgh if you want to watch that game. All right, we'll go through these last three pretty quickly. Just to pick, really, honestly. Iowa State, TCU. Both teams really didn't start great. TCU hasn't even played yet. TCU, obviously, the postponement of the Iron Skillet with SMU, so they haven't played. I've got TCU winning in a slugfest, 24-20. Desmond?
I got Iowa State winning pretty good, 41-27. I think Brock Purdy is pissed off from last week, and I think he's going to come out strong and throw for 250+.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. But either way, should be a good one there. 12:30 p.m.
You seem surprised, George.
Yeah, just a little bit. 12:30 p.m. on FS1. Iowa State's a 3-point favorite. So, yeah, shouldn't be surprised, but I'm just surprised you're picking against TCU and Gary Patterson's country music. If you haven't heard it, that's what he's done in the quarantine and the pandemic. Was a country music star now. So go look it up. Just go type in the Google Gary Patterson country music, and you'll come up. It's beautiful. It's actually pretty good, to be honest. So, yeah, from Fort Worth, 12:30 kick. All right, game days, game of the week, which is I don't even know how this is the game day game. You couldn't have picked anywhere else. Army, Cincinnati. Game day, I know you're here in the Army, Cincinnati. Instead, it's Florida State, Miami, which is the only battle for Florida game that's going to be played this year because FSU, Florida won't be played, and Florida, Miami won't be played because of FCC's non-conference being wiped out. So this is the game day, Saturday Night Football. Seminoles stand no chance. I had a score here. I'm changing it. 38-7, Miami.
No chance at all.
Yeah, no chance. No chance.
Oh, George. I stuck with your number 2, 38-21. You already know why. Derek King himself. I don't even want to talk about him this week. You already know how I feel about this man. Even though he left Houston, I'm going to give him some gracious because they were playing bad. But you know how I feel about him. 8th in QBR right now in the league.
Absolutely. 6:30 p.m. kick on ABC. Miami's an 11-point favorite, so you can see if they cover the spread there in Miami Gardens. All right, final game on our pick'em. Replacing the North Texas-Houston game we were going to pick is Troy and 18th ranked BYU. This will just be a quick game to pick because honestly kind of threw it out of the blue there. I've got BYU winning 38-23. Troy's a good team, but BYU's better. Desmond?
Yep, I got BYU winning this game 24-3. Of course.
Whoa, okay. You're doubting on the 47 points that Troy put up last week, but that's fair. 9:15 p.m. late kick on ESPN, so you can get your BYU After Dark instead of Pac-12 After Dark from Provo, Utah. And our scary good game of the week is a category that Desmond actually is doing better than I am. He is 1-1 against the spread after last week's Wake Forest loss. Desmond got the cover. NC State covered the 3-point spread, or the 2.5-point spread, winning by 3. So Desmond, shout outs to you. I really thought Wake Forest was going to do it, but I'm 0-2, and I need to look on the bright side here. Georgia State and Charlotte. Georgia State is a 2-point favorite. We're going out of the blue here because we need to have an equal chance. Both teams actually lost to Sun Belt teams in their openers. Georgia State losing to the Raging Cajuns in overtime, and Charlotte losing to App State in a very close game in Boone, North Carolina. Both teams covered, though. They were big underdogs, and they covered. I like the way that Georgia State played against Louisiana, and I think they'll play the same way against Charlotte. I think they're going to cover, and they will cover big. They won't just cover the 2-point spread. They will cover big.
I agree, George. I agree, and you're doing good following my path this week. Hopefully, it gives you some good luck.
I just need to go. You know what? We need to just either scrap this segment or move or do something different.
Oh, okay. Hey, you're leading me to upset picks, all right? But I'm gonna catch up.
Okay, we'll see. Well, since we both have the same upset and same scary good game, nobody's gonna have an advantage here.
Well, I mean, not upset. I mean, we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay. So it is time. As you can see, I'm repping last year's small school. And since our debut of this segment in 2018 and our debut season, it's been a fun one to kind of follow as we both kind of go for a team that's not ours, A&M, and for Desmond, Texas Tech. In previous years, I believe 2018, I was on the North Texas train. Oh, chugga. Desmond was on Arizona State, I believe.
Arizona State.
Was that
Arizona
first year.
State.
And they didn't do too bad that first year.
They didn't, no.
No, they didn't.
They lost like a lot of close games.
Yep.
Within like 7 points, a lot of them.
Yeah, it was – you had the right school, just they couldn't – the mojo wasn't there.
Right, yeah.
Last year, I rode the Wyoming train after they absolutely destroyed I believe it was Missouri in their season opener. Kelly Bryant, they got destroyed. So I liked the Cowboys. And then Desmond, I believe, was riding with the Houston Cougars, was his small school last year. Desmond, is that right? The Houston Cougars?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. With D.R. King, before that season just went down the drain. And this year, I'd like to announce that it was between two teams, Arkansas State and Marshall. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 words. We are Marshall. Marshall played very well last week against App State, enough to convince me, riding on that thundering herd. So watch out for the bison, whatever bison, the gallops, right? Just trying to go through a field, just bulldozing everybody. They don't play until October 10th. So I might be quiet for a little bit on my small school. We'll maybe have some tidbits next week. I'll see what I can find as far as my roster and tidbits and see who I should be, engrossing. But Desmond, who are you siding with?
Well, I have 3 choices. South Alabama, of course, for you know why. Marshall. And my 3rd choice, which I'm choosing, 2-0 in the season. Only allowed 7 points in the first 2 games. We're an option deep offense, just like we ran in high school. Army Black Knight, let's go. And plus, my friend is actually going to the Army here pretty soon, so I was like, that's even an extra reason to choose them.
Wow. Okay. I'm surprised you couldn't go with your boy Desmond Trotter, huh?
Man, he lost last game for me, which was my upset pick. I was a little heated about that.
Well, they play this week against UAB. I'll give you Desmond. I'll give you a mulligan. If South Alabama upsets UAB, would you reconsider?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll reconsider.
Okay. But I like that. I like that small school pick with Army.
Army's not. They're not bad.
No, they're not bad at all. I mean, you said it. 7 points allowed. The only
And then I was almost taking Marshall, but then I saw cannot pick Marshall. I was like, oh, come on.
Hey, you got to have two different schools. You can't pick the same one. We can't just be like
I
our
know,
upset picks where we pick the same thing every single week. That's what's going to be a trend. I'm going to have to keep my picks under lock and key to where you don't have to steal them every time. Good grief. Well, that's going to do it for this 4th episode of our 3rd season of the 5th Quarter podcast. Keep in mind, if you want to contact us, you can. Just give us a comments in the YouTube or send us an email at theq5podcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at the5q podcast. That's an at before those words. And we look forward to hearing you, and hope you enjoy our podcast. We'll have some guests in the next few weeks, so stay tuned to that. Should be good one. Signing off for the 5th Quarter podcast. He's Desmond McLaughlin. I am George Koff. Gig 'em Aggies. Wear a mask. And I guess Recom Tech too. Adios, everybody.